really do. What we're planning to do for the funds this year is a continuation of what we've been doing in the past, especially in the past 2 years. And our focus has been on business retention and expansion. One of the things that I also wanted to highlight today is from our last strategic planning session, which was just earlier this month, March 7th, it was clear that the board really wanted us to continue to focus on talent pipeline as well as the housing situation that we have in the area. So we want to continue on those two things. Housing and talent is not normally something that we're actively engaged in. Usually we're very engaged in business assistance, of course, in any way, shape, or form, both existing companies and new companies that want to come into the area. However, we can't help businesses if they can't find talent and if the talent can't find housing, which then makes that a priority for us to help collaborate with our different partners in the community. And we are partnering with, whether it's the Chamber on the talent, North Idaho College, Idaho Department of Labor, as well as the state entities. We're doing that. And then as well as the housing. So we're working with Panhandle Affordable Housing Alliance, with Connect Kootenai, so we can find some possible solutions. And on that housing aspect, some of the things that we've been able to, so what we've been doing is we've been looking at best practices across the nation. We figure out what fits us as far as our size and all of that. And three of the things, two of them we actually are in effect. One of them we're still working on. So the home share program, of course, launched this month. That's a short-term solution, but hopefully it helps us, for instance, if there's nurses that need to be hired and we can provide housing for them temporarily, hopefully that helps. The other thing was last night, Coeur has agreed to set aside 5% of the housing that they're developing for workers. It doesn't mean we get any discount or any such thing. It still means that people have to go through the normal process of, getting pre-approved for loans. But the nice thing about that one is instead of automatically just selling it to whoever wants to buy it, and most of which are people from outside of the area, they're able to set aside the 5%, hopefully for our workers, whether it's county, city, the hospital, schools, any one of those things. And it's not as nebulous as it may seem. We actually set a 80% of AMI. So that's
Say what that is for people who are
so
watching.
AMI is the mean income for the average mean income for the area. So we actually set, and of course that changes depending on what our income is in the area and what our median households and all those things. But we actually set a number, and that number is actually going to work in favor of our workers. So the ones that are at or below our median household income, which is roughly $74,000 in our region at this point. It seems high, but you all know that $74,000 doesn't go that far in terms of buying a home. Right? We actually did a quick study with the help of Windermere, okay? And we found that people that are making $75,000, the homes that are available in our area are about 45 minutes away. So they're not really in our area because now you're having to commute an hour and a half every day. The ones that are near us, that are within, let's say, 30 minutes, they're either old homes that need to be tons of remodeling, which means they're pouring in another batch of money that they don't really have. They're mobile homes, older ones, not even in the newer areas. And it's just not readily available. So we were happy that Coeur was willing to do that. And
Now, when they say affordable, I saw that 5%.
so affordable,
What's affordable?
So we're calling affordable below 500. Okay, we know that's still a stretch. We understand that. But when we were talking to Coeur, we were going from 350 to about 500. The 350 are common walls, just so you guys know. Those are like condos, what do you call them? Triplex, quadruplex, dual, okay? Part of that is just really hard with the rising cost of land in our area. It's just really difficult for the developers to go a whole lot lower. But we are asking them, I said, even if you have to shrink the property on the single-family units, we said, even if you have to shrink the property, shrink the footprint, because people do want single-family homes. They don't want to be, yes, it gives them some equity if they start with common wall kind of housing, but eventually they want to move into single-family units. That's just, I think we all dream that, right? And so we're hoping that they will help us with that. We did, like I said, they agreed to that 5%. We were hoping it was going to be a larger number, but hey, they're the first company that agreed. So we're happy with that result. One of the things that we're really looking at, and we still have to do just a little bit more research, is it's also a national program, like the Home Share program. It's a deed restricted buying. So what that really means is we set up a foundation. So PAHA is looking at the possibility of setting up a foundation. We find land where we can build 5 homes, or the 5% that's been set aside at Coeur, we're going to ask if we can manage that. So the way it works is they're technically the people that are buying. Okay, they normally, let's say they wouldn't normally be able to afford a home because it's $450. But if you take the land value out, so in a sense, the foundation owns the land, okay? If you take the land value out, let's say it becomes $300,000. I'm making up these numbers, okay? The foundation and the individual then buy the property together. On the front end, they decide, and the numbers will change, they decide that, okay, when you resell this, it will only go up no more than 5%. Doesn't matter what the market is doing. Our agreement is this property, you can only resell 5% more than you bought it. The idea being we keep homes affordable. They still pick up equity. They just won't make the big giant equity that, let's say property values went up 20%. On the other hand, they wouldn't have been able to buy the property without the help of the foundation. So we're still looking into it. We think it's a possibility for the area. It's PAHA that's looking at, so Panhandle Affordable Housing Alliance. We continue to look for other solutions that are working well in other communities similar to our size. There's some projects in Ketchum.
So we have a horrible housing situation.
Everybody.
Okay.
Every do,
No.
yes.
So what is Jobs Plus doing to bring jobs here, given that situation?
So one of the things that we are doing, and I think it helps the companies to know that we are working actively to resolve those issues. They said in a lot of communities that they're working with right now, it's like communities are ignoring that there's a housing issue. So at this point for us, because they know it's happening across the nation, the fact that we're able to tell them we've come up with these solutions, we're looking at other solutions, they're still willing to come. It's, mind you, the ones that are coming right now are smaller companies. The ones that are big companies are, I'm going to easily say 2-3 years out. A lot of that has to do with they're also looking at their financing to figure out whether it makes sense to do it now, not do it now. A lot of it has to do with the cost of construction and, of course, the cost of land in our area. So that seems to be helping. Even the fact that we're working on our talent challenges. They seem to be happy that at least we're working towards solutions. We said we don't have all the answers yet, and we know it's not a short-term solution for both the housing and the talent issue, but we're working on it. And we're giving them examples of what we're doing. The talent, none of us will escape that, right? If you've all heard Sam speak, it's just the way the demographics are shifting. Younger families are having less children, and so we know that 20 years from now, the 0 and 2-year-olds there are going to be less of them, right? So one of the things that we're looking at is making, you mentioned it at the strategic planning session, we want to make sure all the people that are living here now have the skill sets that they need to go for the jobs where we have vacancies. Whether they need to be reskilled, upskilled, new programs that we need to put in place. We want to make sure that we're creating our own pipeline. Go ahead.
How are you going to do that?
So the TPM program, the way it works is, and it's
And TPM is?
a talent pipeline management program. It was established by the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, Idaho Workforce Development Council, and Idaho Association of Commerce and Industry brought it to the state. okay? What the way it works is there's a preset program already, but of course you can deviate from it depending on how your community functions. We bring together businesses in a particular industry. So for us, we're starting with construction and health because those are the two critical ones that we have in the area. All our contractors are telling us they can't find people in entry level. Okay, so we get them together.
Yeah, but they can't find them because they
They
don't
said
have
they're not
this,
skilled.
they don't know how to hit a nail with a hammer?
That's
And so
exactly
you're
what
going to
they're
teach them how to
telling us.
hit a nail with a hammer, basically?
They're telling us they don't know how to use measuring tape, how to use
So
levels.
how are you going to teach them that? If
There is actually, when we found this out from the construction industry, NIC applied for a grant. It's not credit, it's a non-credit course, so it's through workforce development training, and it's being done through, probably at Parker Center is where I'm guessing. So they're actually just have people signed up and they teach them how to use a hammer, how to use a tape. It's just basic skills. And our contractor said, we don't have time to teach them those very basic skills, but if they know the basic skills, we'll teach them to be a sheet rocker. We'll teach them how to frame up a wall, but first they need to know how to use a nail gun or a hammer, period, screwdrivers and what have you. So NIC already has a program that's entry level. We're asking the businesses to send us, let's say they just hired someone, but they need to learn how to do all the basic stuff better. We're asking them to send them to NIC, and they still have the program. So one of the things that we've learned from the health industry is they also need entry level. So those are the CNAs, medical assistants, pharmacy, just the assistant part, entry level again. So our NIC, again, is providing some of those programs for us. Some of them we have to go find funding so we can actually set up classes. But the program, as we're setting it up, we're doing technical, academic credit, not credit, stackable credits, any which way, just to make sure that local talent is able to go after the jobs that are available in our area. So,
what
does
is,
that answer your question?
kind
sort
of,
of?
but not really.
Okay,
I
like
mean,
how, what do you need explanation with?
Well, I mean, how many students have gone through your program and actually gotten a job?
So NIC probably has the statistics. I might have to go get it for you later. It's not something I have off the top of my head, but I know that they've graduated a class or two in that entry level. For the medical program at NIC, most of them get jobs at Kootenai Health or with our local medical professional offices in the area. So that we know is happening already.
How much are those jobs paying?
So the entry level, of course, are like anywhere from 16 to 20.
So they're nowhere close to ever owning a home.
I'm sorry?
They're
sir?
nowhere close to ever buying a home at 16
Not
bucks
at
an
that
hour.
price, but the entry level allows them to continue to move up, and which is one of the things that we're also working on with the TPM. So, for instance, the construction industry. So we're asking them for the ones that you were, let's say the beginning ones. How do you promote? Do you promote from within? Do you hire from the outside? Do you guys steal from each other? We're asking them the different ways that people move from entry level to be expert HVAC guy or expert sheet rocker. So the idea is let's help them move up
Yeah.
the ladder. So if they're 17, 18, 19, maybe they're in the entry level position. Okay, as they get older and as we have more training opportunities for them, then they continue to move up the ladder so that eventually they'll get to that 50,000, 75,000 a year so that as a family, they're able to buy a home. We're not saying that they can jump directly from high school to this, although we do have K-Tech and Parker programs that are side by side. You can get college credit while you're in high school to go to college. I mean, to go credit towards your degree or whatever it is through NIC. So we do have those programs. One of the things that I know we want to work on the TPM is really be able to reach down through the K-12 level, because a lot of people make decisions about what they're going to do in life earlier. And if we don't encourage them to get technical training or non-credit classes or whatever, then they're gonna get stuck in those, like you said, you can't buy a home at $18 an hour or at, $16 an hour. So the idea is let's continue, so it's a pipeline, right? So I guess the way to think of it is like a supply chain. So the supply are the talent, so it'd be the students, and as we move them up that pipeline, then it will help our businesses be able to hire where they need help. Okay. Our hospital, of course, also need RNs. That's just kind of a given. They have an easier time actually finding RNs because there's several programs across the nation that do that. And when you have the RN degree, you're willing to move. If you're just in the entry level, you can't really move, right?
Yeah.
You're kind of here. You're basically from here going into those entry level positions and hoping to get into, let's say, an RN program later on, or whatever, physician's assistant and other programs that they have. But it's a program that's been set up, so there's almost like a step-by-step way to do it that's been successfully done there's 28 states involved. 20 have been doing it for a while, 8 are fairly new, so we're kind of still finding our way to what works for our region. But like we said, we're kind of taking the samples from the successes in other states, similar to our size. And we're trying to apply it to the region so that we can help our local businesses and industry get the talent that they need. Okay, so that's what we're doing right now, and that's actually the bulk of what we want to use the funds that would come from the county, is to help with those 2 key programs. We'll continue what we normally do, which is, for instance, we'll continue doing the I-90 program, which is the I-90 Aerospace and Aviation Conference and Expo. So the purpose of that one is, it's actually, the history behind it is Idaho had an association and Spokane had an association. It's really manufacturing focused on aerospace. What we decided in 2015 is we would probably be a stronger voice if we got together, and they would also get a chance to meet each other. Then we could put them together, and then they can hear about current events, state-of-the-art information in the area. And it is doing just that. During the pandemic, supply chains were broken. So a lot of our aerospace manufacturers that were also in medical device manufacturing, of course, medical device was busy, aerospace was down. Their supply chains were broken, but they know each other. So they said, hey, we know you're usually aerospace, and the standards are pretty much the same. They're both pretty exacting, right? Because you don't want planes flying out of the sky, nor do you want devices that are inside people to fail. So basically the standards they have to abide with are pretty similar. So a lot of them called each other to complete their supply chain. A very specific example is Acrofab and Continuous Composites. I think it was even in the paper, got together. Our hospitals, all of them, needed the face mask, and we couldn't buy them anywhere, right? So Acrofab and Continuous Composites got together and made a whole bunch of masks for all of our local hospitals. And they didn't even have to go through us because they already know each other, which is the whole purpose of the conference, is they get to know each other well enough that we try to localize the supply chain. So instead of Nebraska, they'll call the guy in Post Falls, or the one here, Spokane will call the person in Rathdrum, because they know that they have the capacity to do that. So it's doing exactly what we wanted it to do. It's been successful. We invite Boeing to come, and they came because it's a bigger group. There's about 100 in the first year, and we get about 250 attending the conference now. So
Leslie, you're on the board of this organization.
I have yet to attend a meeting, but yes. Bruce actually has. Yeah.
Have you?
Yes.
Think we ought to fund them?
Well,
We got a couple minutes here to talk about it.
I'll give you at least where I'm coming from on this, and that is that all last year I got to learn a lot about what's going on in our county, and what I learned is that and we talked about this a little bit yesterday. Our sheriff's office, for example, has been woefully short on staff. The jail is overcrowded. The one place that has the highest liability in any government is the jail. We don't have enough patrol officers to actually go out and actively, do proactive patrolling. To give you an example of that, in Hayden City, their property crimes are going up, but their arrest rates are going down. Why? Because our deputies are spending all their time going from place to place to place to take reports. They have no time to actually go out and get the person who commits the crime. And so, from my perspective, this is more akin to the cobbler and his kids not having shoes. We're focused on giving funds to all these other entities, but we're not taking care of our own, and we're not doing what we're supposed to do that's state mandated, which is to provide, law enforcement services to a standard. And I kind of feel like if we haven't been doing that, even 911 dispatch, I don't know if you knew this, but they were 50% down at one point. They're at what, like 75%? Just imagine calling if you have an emergency. If someone gets hurt at one of these businesses and they're listening to hold music because we don't have the staffing. From my perspective, I am like, your energy and passion is contagious. I wish I could find people like you for my business, and I can't. And so as much as I love what you're doing, until I feel like we can address this issue first, could I even consider putting any discretionary funds into entities like yours? And it's not because I don't want to, but because I feel like if I say yes to this, I'm saying no to the people who serve this community. And we're asking so much from them when it comes to giving up time with their families, with overtime and things like that. And even, leaving for other departments and other industries because we're always behind the 8 ball on that. So that's where I'm at with that. And it's not a no, but it's, let me look at this other, from a more comprehensive, and then we can visit the discretionary.
May I comment, however, that out of all I know how important 911 and all those things are. May I comment, however, that we're probably one of the ones requesting money from you that actually also bring money to the county in terms of new capital investment from the business. It's not us that bring it, but it's the companies that we help that bring you additional capital that goes into our taxes, of course.
Yeah, could I comment on that, though?
Sure.
One of the problems that's going on in this country is that many other these communities where people relocate from and come here,
Right.
They're no longer recognizable to these people. In fact, it's been my experience personally. And so they relocate. And COVID was a good example of that.
Yes.
We got to watch moms at football games getting tased for not wearing a mask outdoors,
Goodness.
And people said enough. And so when you have this macro element of driving people to communities like this, I don't think we're going to have a shortage of trying to draw talent, because a lot of people who've relocated here work from home, and people who are running businesses, especially in places like Washington and California, where being a small business owner is about as onerous as it can be when it comes to dealing with these state governments. And I know a lot of them are shutting down operations there and opening them up here. We don't need to incent them. The state governments are doing a good enough job as it is. So, sorry, I'm not trying to take up all your time here.
All good points, and I agree with everything you've said.
So, thank you.
Yeah, I know you guys have a million other things to do, so any other questions, please feel free to email, call if you have any other questions. Okay?
Appreciate it.
Thank
Jane.
you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
There you go. I'll call for public comment. Okay.
Commissioners, thank you for the opportunity to address you today. We're going to see how old my eyes are because I forgot my tablet, so I'm using my phone. So I liked that you touched on actually some stuff that I was going to speak to today, but if you don't mind taking a couple minutes to listen to what I prepared, if you're willing to. So I think the board is presented with a really great opportunity, a wonderful one, a chance to show the community and other state county offices that you lead in principled, dedicated, and really visionary governance of our county resources. Each of you rightly campaigned as fiscal conservatives, and I really appreciated that out of all three of you. And that you also did transparency in accounting for expenditures that you spent from county dollars. So this is a perfect example of how this governing body can put visionary budgetary policy in place by focusing only on the county offices and the services that they provide to the community. Those being the coroner, the clerk, the sheriff, the prosecutor, the treasurer, the assessor, and the commissioner offices. Subsidizing private industry is not fiscally conservative policy. When the Coeur d'Alene Area Economic Development Corporation, also known as Jobs Plus, that we all just heard from, was founded 36 years ago and entered into the public-private relationship that it has with the county, there was an arguable need for attracting businesses and creating more jobs. But a lot has changed since the late 1980s in Kootenai County. In fact, a lot has changed since 2010. We grew 30% of our population between 2010 and today. And 42% of that population, they're not even in the workforce. We have retirees, and then we have those under the age of 18. So kind of the whole mission of what jobs, well, it looks like they're dabbling in some other things that aren't necessarily related to jobs, but that's a whole nother story. But we've been under the strains of massive growth. We've all experienced it personally at the county level with your budget issues, with the services we provide to the community at large, and then of course the housing, which was touched on in depth today. And we're literally feeding the monster, so to speak, by trying to attract more jobs to a place that already has a wealth of individuals to fill jobs. Also, you couple that with no end in sight to the insane Biden economy and the inflation that we have right now. And it's clear that we really shouldn't be subsidizing private sector right now. I believe the county...
One more minute.
One more minute? Okay. I believe the county is about 12% understaffed right now, so there are job openings. Let me just skip a little bit and go down. I apologize. So I wanted to point out that there are 9 taxing entities that order ready give money to the Coeur d'Alene Economic Development Council. They are the city of Coeur d'Alene, city of Post Falls, who are also taxed by the county as well. And then the Rathdrum and Hayden citizens also give money to Jobs Plus. All the county residents fork over money to North Idaho College, which has seen fit to give Jobs Plus some of their budget dollars. And not to be left out of the multiple taxing entities, we have the University of Idaho, Kootenai Health, and the Coeur d'Alene Urban Renewal District, all funded by taxpayers, all giving money to Jobs Plus. So as a whole, I don't think the community has an issue with the functions of Jobs Plus. However, I think they would be surprised to know how many different times they're taxed to fund them. So to sum up, real quick, because I know, Leslie, you're giving me the red light. I just appeal to your common sense and understanding of the proper role of government to take deliberate and necessary steps to return Kootenai County to a sustainable fiscal policy. I think our community has felt overtaxed and underrepresented. And so with that, I thank you for your time and for having these special budgetary meetings.
Thank you, Charity. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, any other public comment? Nothing, Jonathan? All right. Oh, man, I was hoping to get 1:59, but it's 2:00, meeting adjourned. All right, folks, for the canvassing, come on in.